G'day! Ever since I was introduced to Ark a year ago, I've wanted to play through the story maps with a single survivor. I will have 100 days to ascend from each map, starting with the island, all the way through to Genesis Part 2. I have single player settings turned off, and my rates are pretty standard other than boosted breeding. I am Mr. Professor, and this is my first 100 days of becoming the ultimate survivor. And so we begin, day 1 of 100. Immediately, I'm picking up rocks and punching wood, and I can pretty quickly make a pickaxe. And I start the agonizing process of learning engrams. A drop had already spawned right next to me and gave me some goodies. I then went in for my first kill. I got enough hide from the dillo to make a full set of cloth armor. I then set down our first foundation with a storage box and a mortar and pestle. I crafted some bowlers and a slingshot, and I bowled the first PT I saw. He was a level 45, which will do for now, so I gently persuaded him to be my friend. I'm sorry, dodos, but in order for me to survive, I need your meat and your hide. After some slight genocide, I got started on making some narcotics and cooking some meat. I could then make some trank arrows, and I placed down a forge. These river rocks actually give a pretty decent amount of metal, especially once you've got a metal pick, so they're great for the early game. While my metal is smelting, I wanted to go and tame the parasaur on the other side of the island. It's a level 115, which is great. Because he's a high level, he took quite a few tranks, but he eventually goes down. I leave some berries in her so she can tame up, and I spot a terror in the distance, which I knock out, and it ends up being a level 90, which is a good upgrade. But I need meat to tame her. I eventually get the trike down, and the parasaur helps me get the other. Bury the parasaur. I get back to base to make my smithy and a metal pick. I then collect as much metal as I can from the river rocks near my base. I start day 2 with a berry run with berry. Now I'm able to make a butt ton of narcotics. Our pterodons have tamed up, so I named the male Terry and the female Crystal. On our first flight, I came across this yellow drop with a ring and got some okay-ish chitin boots. I then collected what I really came for, which is crystal, so I can make a spyglass. I went back to base to make the spyglass, and then I immediately headed out to find a high level pterodon. I spot a 130 pretty quickly, so I bowler him and knock him out. I get him home so he can get to know Crystal. Later that night, they drop me an egg, which I then hatch. She has the good stats, so I'll keep her. I name her Speedy. Day 3 starts on a good note when I get 2 pieces of decent ghillie and a blueprint for a good pistol. I couldn't find the footage of me taming this Ichthyornis, but after today, he pretty much just sits in my base for the rest of the playthrough. But with the Ichthy and Speedy loaded up, we head to Red Obelisk to make some cryopods, cause today is moving day. I cryopod Berry and load up the other PTs with all our resources and base stuff, and we head to our new home. You'll probably recognize this area. It's in a really good location. It's pretty central to the map, and there's resources everywhere. The downside though is there's not a lot of space on this island, and that gets pretty annoying later on. By the end of the day, I have a few foundations up, with a fabricator, smithy, preserving bin, and a couple of mortar and pestles. The evening of day 3, I head out to find an Argentavis. I immediately find a 130, but for some reason it's intent on killing itself instead of becoming part of the tribe. It's not until the morning of day 4 I find another high level Archie. It's a level 115, but it's better than nothing. I made a simple trap and got him in pretty easily. Now I have no explanation for why I did this, but I went and farmed a metal for some reason, and then went back to knock out the RG. As I'm knocking him out, he's getting bloodier and bloodier, and I'm scared he's gonna die before he goes unconscious. So, I go and get a sacrificial dodo. When a wild carnivore eats a dead body, they heal back a portion of their health, so it's an easy way to give them some health if you're worried about them dying during the knockout process. After a few more arrows, he goes down, and I tame him up with some prime meat. I don't have a saddle, so I cryopod him and take him home. After I make a saddle, we go out to find a female so we have a breeding pair. I find this 130 and I knock her out with ease. I spot an alpha nearby, so I go and take it out. It gives me a slightly better crossbow and a pretty good hatchet. Now I can use the prime meat from that to tame up the RG, but when I get back, the RG is just gone. I guess it just got eaten by something. That really sucks, but I keep looking, and by the morning of day 5, I've tamed up a 125 female. I don't really care about the RGs being super high level, so it's fine. I give myself a fade and a beard trim, so I look more like myself and less like a hobo. Using the RGs, I go and collect as much metal as they can carry. I then make more forges so I can smelt it all. I'm making a small trap here so I can drop in dinos and tame them up at my base. I then drop in this 140 Anki I spotted earlier, and I get him knocked out. As I'm flying around looking for anything to tame, I spot this 140 male Rex, which I can't ignore. So I go home and make a trap. I set up the trap and tried to get him in, and holy crap was this guy stubborn. It took me a good 10 minutes to get this guy in, and I had to move the trap multiple times. Every time I got him close, he just aggroed to something else. I've never had this much trouble getting a Rex in. They're usually pretty easy. Finally he goes in, but I'm pretty sure it's just because he aggroed to the Therizino behind the trap, but I'll take it. After I knocked him out, I went home because I forgot to feed the Anki. While I was there, I made some flak armor as well. The Anki tamed up, and I named him Earl. Hopefully you get that reference. I go back to the Rex to feed him some prime meat, and he tames up. I check his stacks, and his health kinda sucks, but he's got decent melee. In that same area, I spot a 135 male Megatherium, so I gather resources to make a trap. I did a simple 4x4 trap with one hide door frames and some ramps to get him in. I got him aggroed and just walked him in the trap. After a bunch of arrows, he finally went down. On my way back to base, I spotted this 115 female Doedicurus. I scooped her up with the Argy and dropped her in the trap at my base so I could tame her later. Megatheriums do eat prime meat, but they get better taming effectiveness with honey, so I went to the redwoods to gather a bunch of honey to feed it. I fed him all the honey, and he tamed up right away. I plan to use the Megatheriums to fight the Broodmother. They get an insane buff when they kill chitin creatures, so they're perfect for that fight. So I was really hoping to get some good stats from this guy, but they were absolutely garbage. After that major disappointment, I went to Metal Mountain with Earl, and we farmed until the Argy was completely weighed down. We came back with a bunch of metal, so I got it smelting. While it was smelting, I got our two Argies mating. I got an egg, and on the morning of day 8, it hatched. She had the good weight stat, so I named her August, and she would be our weight Argy. Our Doedicurus finally tamed up, and I named her Lady. In a yellow drop, I found an apprentice Megatherium saddle. If I want to do alpha, it's probably not good enough, but it's a good start. I then went out to level August up. We grabbed a couple of XP notes, and then started taking down this Alpha Rex. This fight took forever. I'd fight it until August got really low, and then I'd heal it back up, and then fight again. And I repeated that process until it died. And after about 20 minutes, I got no loot from it. I forgot to hit record, but I tamed a level 90 mammoth, just to collect wood and berries. I named her Ellie. I hatched another Argy, and this guy was going to be my main flyer, and I named him Buck. I actually had to look up how to use a mammoth, because I've never had one before, but they are awesome for getting wood, and even better for getting berries. With the resources that I gathered, I started expanding my base. I also laid the foundation for my greenhouse. I wanted to get this done pretty early on, so I could make kibble for easier taming, plus all the other useful recipes crops make. I finally got to imprint Buck, and he's almost raised up. I tamed up a low-level Fiumia for its unique ability. The name gives you an idea of why I tamed this dino. When you feed him stimberries, this happens. Now I can put all that in a compost bin with thatch to make fertilizer. Obviously crops need water, so I start doing piping down to the river below. Now that they're all nice and irrigated, I just need to build the rest of the greenhouse. Buck is all raised up, so I take a break from building and go level him up. I grab an XP note and kill an alpha raptor. I grab some more XP notes and I'm on the lookout for more alphas. And on the morning of day 10, I get my first jump scare. Thankfully Buck's got my back and we deal with him pretty easily. I then found an Alpha Carno and take him down too. The Alpha Carno gave me a nice upgrade on my crossbow. I dropped this low level Oviraptor into my greenhouse so I could tame him up. He'll come into use later on. I finally gathered enough resources to build the rest of my greenhouse. All I need now is some seeds to get these crops growing. I spend the rest of the evening looting drops and beaver dams. I got a nice shoddy and a flak helmet and a bunch of cementing paste. Day 11, I wanted to head to the Arctic, and I quickly find a 135 female Daedon, so I pick her up and take her back to base. I made a 4x4 trap and dropped her in. I then headed back to the Arctic. I farmed oil and then killed penguins and beat their lifeless husks with clubs for their polymer. On my way back home, I got some decent ghillie pants and then decided to finish my house build. I now have some industrial gear, and I start day 13 by taking down an Alpha T-Rex. I wanted to get the kill myself, so I can level up to get a cooking pot and a cryo fridge. I spent the day farming crops, and then I made a tree platform, set it down with some sap taps, because later on I'm gonna need sap for sweet veggie cakes. I then started taming a queen bee. In order to tame them, you need to find a beehive that's active. If you hit the beehive and nothing comes out, it means it's inactive. Once you find an active one, keep hitting it until the beehive is destroyed. Once you destroy it, the queen bee will come out. Make sure you're wearing full ghillie, and then you can feed her a rare flower and it's tamed. You can then pick her up and then drop her down as a beehive. Put rare flowers in it and it will passively generate honey. I go to Green Obelisk to make a bunch of cryopods. On my way back, I spot a 125 Beelzebufo. So I drop it in our trap and knock him out. He tames up pretty quick and I name him Le Frog. Day 15 is a day of taming. All I'm looking for is low-level therizinosaurs. I'm using these guys to make kibble, so I can tame higher level theries easier later on. If you've ever tamed a high level theri with crops, you know why. I have a low level male and female, so I can breed them to get a couple more females. I load down Eggy and set her on wandering, cause on wandering, she'll increase all production of eggs in dinos around her. Day 16, I finally unlock the industrial cooker, and I start making some med brews. I hatch a couple of theri eggs and get 2 females in a row. That'll probably be enough for what I want. I head back to the Arctic to look for tames. I'm looking for Megatheriums, Uterannuses, and Daedons, and I kill all the low level ones that I see. This continues all day until I spot this. Oh yeah! A 145 female Uterannus. So I build a trap and get her in. Took me a few attempts, but I finally got her in. After a stack of tranks, she goes down. I feed her mutton from an ovis I found earlier, and she tames up on the morning of day 17. I check her stats and she has 9k health, which is the highest I've ever seen. I don't know if I've just had bad utis in the past, but I'm very happy with that. On my way back home, my luck continues. I found this yellow drop with a ring, and I got an insane Ascendant rifle.
That's a lot of damage!
I end day 17 by making narcotics and spark powder. After a bit of flying around, on day 18, I find a 130 male Uterannus. I obviously have to add this to my tribe. I start by killing its Carno bodyguards. I lure it into the trap and it goes in with relative ease. On my way to get mutton from the base, I noticed this Alpha Raptor. I decided to take it down, but I wanted to get the kill on my character. So I got him low and came up on this cliff. I got off Buck and just clicked slightly right to get a better position, and Arc just launched me off the edge. I managed to get a headshot on him, but it wasn't enough to kill. For some reason Buck wasn't following me even though I whistled. I drank Mad Brews, but it just wasn't enough. Eventually, he took me down. I came and picked up my stuff with Speedy, while Buck took down the Alpha Raptor. I tamed the Ute, cryopoded him up, and took him back to base. Day 19, I was in the Redwoods, looking for Thylers. I didn't find any that was high enough to tame, but I did kill 17 of them. Day 20, I looted drops and beaver dams. Didn't really find much though. I then got started on our kibble production and sweet veggie cakes. And then back to the Arctic when I spotted this Giga. Not gonna do anything now, but I remember he's there. I spent all of day 21 looking for tames, but didn't find anything. I then spot a level 120 Thyla. It's not as high as I want it to be, but it's the highest I've found, so I'll tame it. Thylers are one of my favorite mounts, and they are amazing for artifact caving. When you're taming them, use cooked meat because they prefer that over raw. Day 23 back to the Arctic again, and I found a 135 Megatherium. So as per usual, I get her trapped, I knock her out, I feed her some mutton because I couldn't be bothered to go get honey this time. She has a pretty decent melee stat, so I'm happy. Day 24, and I'm killing Thorzinos and looting beaver dams. I was hoping to tame a high level Theri, but didn't find it. I did kill another alpha raptor though. Day 25 was more of the same, except I added baryonyxes to the taming list. They're really great for an ocean mount, because they can stun lock most creatures, other than the big daddies. But as usual, I didn't find any. Well, high levels. Day 26, on my search for tames, I found this little guy. Otters are really useful for a couple reasons. Their main ability is thermal insulation, so while they're on your shoulder, you are better insulated to the warmth and the cold. They also do something that no other player or dino can do, but I'll show you that later. In this spot here, I found a bunch of trilobites, which was awesome because I need a few black pearls for making gas masks later. On my travels, I spot this 140 Sarco. I was hoping to get a baryonyx to tame as an initial ocean mount, but this guy will do. While I was out trying to get raw prime fish meat, I got rudely interrupted by these titanoboas. I eventually passed out, but these snakes were no match for my bodyguard. Once he finally got off his ass. Getting prime fish meat can be annoying, but if you use a sickle to harvest the bodies of salmon, you actually get a decent amount. We now have a Sarco. Only 4 things happened between the days 27 and 30. I got absolutely ripped off by a yellow drop with a ring. I named our Sarco Dundee. I farmed all of the metal, and I mean all of the metal. And lastly, I found and tamed a level 140 Megatherium. Again, I stupidly forgot to hit record, so I missed taming this Rex, but I tamed a 140. Unfortunately, it's a male, which kinda sucks, because I need a female to breed with, but it did have a nice health upgrade. And then me and Dundee took to the ocean. Killing this Megalodon was super easy, because Dundee is so damn fast. I then spot our first Basilosaurus. This fight did not go as well as the Megalodon. These mantas shredded me. I go to shore to heal, and then I eventually take the Basilosaurus down. I spot a 140 Mosa, and I go and mark it on my map, but I probably won't tame it. Mosas are cool, but they get stun locked by Tusos and jellyfish, so they're not great for the underwater caves. In order for me to kill the Bassies, I have to lead the Mantas away, and then kill the Bassie on its own. The Sarco really can't handle all the Mantas. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and it's very squishy. I know the psycho isn't imprinted or anything, but he kinda sucks. Sorry, Dundee. But it's what we've got, so I'll make it work. Thankfully, he is very quick. I continue killing all the low-level bassies in hope to find a high-level one. After about 45 minutes of searching and killing, I find a 145. I aggro the mantas, and I lead them away along with some eels and sharks. I gotta get that bassie all on its own. Now we're alone, I can start the taming process. I managed to get a second feed after what felt like 50 years. This is where I make another mistake. You see that bassie over there? Well, there's a lot of mantas covering him, and what I didn't realize at the time is that when I go to feed the bassie I'm taming, they will aggro to me. So I feed him, and the obvious happens. They very quickly shred through me. At this point I'm freaking out, because I really don't want to lose Dundee, and I don't want to mess up the taming on the bassie. So I grab another set of scuba, and head over with Speedy. I quickly whistle Dundee, and he comes over straight away. I managed to grab my stuff without really any interference. I then head back to Dundee, and thankfully the bassie only needed one more feed, so I give it, and it's all tamed up. Now get me the heck out of this ocean. I was just looking for tames on day 33, and I didn't really find anything. Our tribute box, however, is coming along very nicely. Day 34, and I've got a Megatherium that I want to breed up for some caving. I then head to Kano Island and kill every single dino. I do this so I can hopefully get a high level female Rex spawn. Day 35 and my Megatherium is imprinted, and by the middle of the day she's all raised up. I grab some gas masks I made earlier and I head to the swamp cave. This is where it is on the map and the coordinates. This cave is no joke, but having a Megatherium makes it so easy. I checked the drops, but I got pretty crappy loot this run. If you see a leech in your vision, it means your dino has one attached to them. So just go up to him and hold E, and there'll be an option to remove it. I've never used Megatheriums before, but holy crap, once they get buffed up, they do insane damage. What is this red drop? I eventually get to the end of the cave and grab the artifact of the immune. Day 36 and I made an egg incubator. Apparently you can do this gestation monitoring, which you'll see here. You can see the stats of the baby, and if they're not the right stats, you can actually end the gestation earlier. It makes it easier for getting mutations. I then head back out into the ocean with our bassie. I pretty much just killed everything I came across, and it took me ages to take down this alpha shark. I wanted to find a high level female bassie, so I could get an imprinted bassie for the underwater caves, but I didn't find any today. I did find some Tusos though, so I killed those for their black pearls. They'll come in very handy later on. When I got back to base, I set up some artifact pedestals. I then placed down our first artifact. This is the location and coordinates of the central cave. I went in with our Thyla because this is the easiest cave on the map. All in all, it took me about 5 minutes to do the entire cave. After not too long, I found the artifact of the clever. And at this part is why I brought the otter. He can actually hold multiple of the same artifact. Usually you can only handle one of each. So I can do these caves once and get 3 artifacts. And just like that, our second artifact done. On day 39, I finally found the thyla I was looking for, a 140. I go back home to make some extraordinary kibble, because I want to get the most out of this team. I head back to the snow to get more polymer. On day 40, I find a level 90 female thyla, which will do. I'll just breed upwards until I get the right stats. On day 41, I built a breeding pen. Day 42, and I imprinted Simba the Thylacolio. Obviously, I've got to do a cave now that I've got Simba, so here's the one on Kano Island. I just jump and parachute all the way down. Once I get to the bottom, I throw Simba out. And we make pretty short work of this cave. Once I kill everything, I grab my 3 artifacts and head back to the top. Three out of 10 artifacts. Up until this point, I hadn't seen a Therizinosaur above level 110, so I decided I was just going to keep looking and looking until I found a few tames. I pretty much just hung around Green Obby and killed everything in sight, hoping that high level Theris would eventually spawn. After 3 hours of this, I spot a 145. I've got a good enough rifle that I can knock them out pretty quickly, so I use a net gun and then shoot them down until they're unconscious. He starts running, but he does go down. And then for the next 2 hours, I keep searching for Theris. I end up taming 6 Therizinosaurs, one having 6k HP and another having about 350 melee. If I want any chance to do the Alpha Dragon and Alpha Overseer, I'm gonna need some pretty heavily mutated Therizinosaurs. So these stats will be good enough to start a breeding line. Day 50, the halfway point. I go back into the ocean and kill a couple of Tusos for their tentacles and precious black pearls. I then tame the first female Bassie I see, and I'll do the same thing as I did with the Thycolio and just breed upwards until I get the right stats. I then decide to do the first underwater cave, otherwise known as the easy underwater cave. I figured with this Bassie, I'd be fine. I ran through this cave pretty smoothly, only coming into contact with a few high-level sharks, nothing else. I get to the artifact pretty quickly, and I spot this red drop. And I'm so glad I spotted it, because it had an insane pair of flak gauntlets. I head back to base and place down our final artifact of this video. Thanks for watching part 1 of the Island 100 Days. If you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button. Subscribe and click that bell so you are notified when I drop part 2, which will be out within the next month. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch ya on the next one.